Hey, friends! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, Hearties! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, joined by my co-host, Brennan, to talk about When Calls the Heart, Season 1, Episode 2, Cease and Desist. It was written by Brian Bird and directed by Michael Landon Jr. When all the widows in Coal Valley received eviction notices from the coal company to make way for new miner recruits, Elizabeth hatches a plan to keep the widows from moving out of the only town they know. What were your first impressions on this episode and your hot take of the week, if you have one?
Sure. Well, this episode, I immediately just loved how it shortly opens to Elizabeth and the arrival of her boxes of books and belongings.
Yeah.
And Jack, of course, is right there to give her a hard time. And there's a bit of banter right away. And I love that about this first season with the two of them. And of course, starting right away with the school scene, Elizabeth teaching her students about gravity and going above and beyond to demonstrate by her getting up on her desk and throwing her shoe down. And so this episode had a couple really good scenes that just always draws me in right away when I watch this episode.
Yeah, I agree with all of your thoughts. And I think this was really well written by Brian and well directed by Michael Landon Jr. I don't have a bold or unpopular opinion about this episode. I can't think of any.
I couldn't think of one either.
No, but I think there was a good balance of comedic moments and more, I guess, emotional moments in this episode. It was done very well in this episode.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I really liked and appreciate the way that Brian wrote it with some, of course, great banter between Jack and Elizabeth, but also a lot of emotions, like you said, in this episode with just the women and the story that they portray in this episode.
Yeah. And actually, can't remember if any comments have been made on this character, but this might be a bold opinion, possibly. I actually think that the character of Mr. Anvil, so one of the guys that works at the mine for Henry, is a great character.
He is. I was thinking about that when I was watching this episode. I wish that his character had
stayed on.
Yeah, because I really do like him.
Yeah. He's a great actor. And for all the Hallmarkies out there who may not know, and the Hearties too, that are fans of Andrew Walker and Nikki DeLoach, he was in Curious Caterer Foiled Plans. I won't give away his character for any of you who have not watched, but
oh, that's great.
Yes, he had a big role in that movie.
Oh, very good. That's a good one to be in.
Won't give away.
Watch for yourselves if you hadn't already.
Oh my goodness. And once you watch the movie, go check out my review of Curious Caterer Foiled Plans.
Double feature.
Yes. But anyway, let's get back to Coal Valley and this episode. So, some highlights and a brief episode recap. As the synopsis stated, the widows of Coal Valley, including Abigail, are served eviction notices by the mining company, and they have just 2 weeks to vacate their company-owned homes so incoming miners can move in. Of course, Elizabeth has just recently arrived to town, and she's eager to help. She works with her students, prompted by Jack's encouragement to search for a legal loophole that might let the women stay, while at the same time, Abigail takes action and she dons a miner's gear and leads the other widows, along with herself, into the mine with Henry's agreement, reluctantly, of course. He gives them a rule that they have to clear the mine shaft by the eviction deadline, or they have to move out, which, of course, do agree. I think it was Kat who said, we're going in to this with our eyes open. And as time goes on, the widows become exhausted and hopelessness sets in, that they can even clear the shaft, because when they first talked to Henry, he stated that his men are not allowed to help them. Shame on Gowan.
Mm-hmm.
And Elizabeth, realizing how deeply Coal Valley means to the children and their families, she decides to take a bold risk once her legal plan fails. She tries to use the Domain Act on the mining company, which in this case, that would be painting all the row houses. But that scene, Henry goes to the row houses and basically shuts her down. She only gets 2 cans of paint instead of the entire paint collection from the mercantile. So her bold risk is, after listening to Jack's advice, she risks everything, including her life, to stand with her community and goes into the mine with Abigail and the widows, which I guess in turn causes or inspires the rest of the women who are not widows to also go into the mine. And this episode showcases Elizabeth's growing empathy, resourcefulness, Abigail's fierce determination, and the collective resilience of Coal Valley's women when faced with displacement. But this was a great episode.
It was so good. I completely agree.
Yeah. So, Hearts of the Valley, character development. What were your thoughts on Elizabeth's character development in this episode?
I completely agree with you when you just said she grows in her empathy for not only for the widows of this town, and slowly throughout the episode wanting to help them figure out a way to stay in their homes, but then also she really kind of sacrifices her own position and possibly herself when she physically herself goes into the mine and helps them against a couple of other mothers, even against Jack. He kind of tells her, well, I can't stop you, but I don't think you should. So I think we really see major growth, even from the beginning to the end of the episode, from her.
Agreed. Yeah, I really love in this episode how she transitions from the well-meaning city teacher to a proactive community advocate for all the widows. And I think her compassion and determination really shine through in this episode as the widows are served their eviction notices. And we already talked about it, but she pivots from education to activism by investing her intellect into rescuing the widows' livelihoods with the help of her students, by trying to invoke the Domain Act. And like I just stated, it's the catalyst that inspires the rest of the town to follow suit.
Absolutely. And there's that scene in the classroom where Elizabeth does a quick lesson plan change with the students, and she writes on the chalkboard, Coal Valley is my home because, and then the students, they get to go up and share in front of the class.
Yeah. Yes, and we will talk about that scene because that's one of my favorites in the episode.
It's so good.
What were your thoughts on Jack, Abigail, and Nicole Valley community character development in this episode? So the Coal Valley community would mainly include the widows.
Yes. Well, when they're first having that meeting at night in the saloon, Elizabeth is also there. And of course, they're all trying to figure out what they should do. Elizabeth is chiming in with some advice. Maybe you can pool money together for a lawyer.
Yeah.
And they basically all disagree with that. And then I really admired and respected how Abigail stands up. She doesn't directly come out and say what her idea is. So for us as viewers, it's a moment of, oh, what's going to happen next? But she says, I think it's time for us widows to fade into the background. And the new miners to step forward. And even just that idea that she has of them going and being the miners really is such a sacrifice, not only for herself, but just of what she's asking of the other widows. Because I just think it's really brave, especially after knowing what had happened to their husbands and what the risks and possibilities are. It's just a really brave, selfless moment that Abigail starts and the women follow.
Yeah. So for me, I love how the episode deepens Abigail's arc from grieving widow to active leader in the community. You know, we first see her, she is not happy about the eviction notices, but she rallies the other widows, advocating direct action over passive defeat. She confronts Mr. Gowan, or Henry, boldly, offering to work in the mine to keep their homes, and succeeds in making a deal under ruling terms. And with the widows, you know, at the beginning of the episode and through almost the entire episode, you know, they're despondent and powerless, you know, they don't know what to do. And with Abigail's leadership and Elizabeth's advocacy, they're inspired to labor, and ultimately solidarity spreads when, I've already said it twice in this episode already, but the other townswomen join in. With Jack, this episode, his arc, he's pulled between duty and sympathy for the widows. You know, as a Mountie, he is legally bound to, you know, what he signed up to do, which, as Henry stated some point in the episode, we might talk about the scene a little bit more later on, but if it comes down to it, he is required to make them leave their homes. You know, he is the law in town, but personally, he is conflicted when the widows enter the mine. He pushes Elizabeth to seek legal solutions and subtly challenges mine safety standards, showing he's more than rule-bound. He's empathetic and morally grounded. His quiet support and pragmatic nudges are pivotal, especially when he sticks a note to Elizabeth's head, which we might talk about that scene in just a few minutes, when she falls asleep studying. And, you know, this is a mix of, you know, flirty humor and meaningful character guidance. So he had a great arc in this episode, too.
Oh, he sure did. Yes.
Yes. I think he kind of starts to soften a little bit in this episode.
He sure does. He really, really does. Even when Elizabeth is about to go into the mine, and I know I mentioned this earlier, but he says basically, well, I don't support you doing it, but I understand. And then we get a be careful from Jack to Elizabeth, which is so sweet.
Yes. Agreed. And I just kind of thought about this, but in a way, you might, or most likely, will agree with me, because a lot of the time we have the same brain.
Yeah.
Jack is kind of like Oliver in a way at the beginning of Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Does that make sense? Like,
Hmm.
Oliver at the very beginning of the show,
Hmm.
like, no breaking rules. Like, he was a rule follower. I mean, he still is, but
Hmm.
like,
Right.
hardcore rule follower. Like, no, you can't do this. You can't do this.
Hmm.
Kind of like Jack. Like, no, this is how it's supposed to be.
Right. Right. That's so, so very true. I do agree with you. Right.
But
Just black and white. Both men, they're so dedicated to their jobs. They're, nope, these are the rules. This is my duty. This is what I'm supposed to do. And this is what I'm called to do. And I'm not going to compromise that.
but they both soften. Like,
Mhm.
they are both, like you said, black and white. They don't color outside the lines. And kind of in a way, Elizabeth is the equivalent of Shane. Like, they color outside the lines.
Hmm. They really do, which I totally agree with because right away with both women, Elizabeth comes to town. She's kind of immediately trying to get her hands dirty, in maybe places she shouldn't. And same with Shane. She immediately is kind of asking questions and, well, there's other ways to do things. And
Yep. Yes.
I'm not going to let you stop me.
Nope.
And it's so interesting. I completely agree with what you're saying about Jack specifically. I was watching this episode with Evan, and even he mentioned just right away about Jack of he said something like, "Oh, you can tell Jack is all about his job," which
Mm-hmm.
is so true, especially in these early episodes.
Yeah. Let's go to Mountie Watch, which is, all Mountie work related scenes.
Mhm.
Besides the scenes with Henry and Jack that we got, regarding the evictions, we really only got one Mountie work related scene, kind of, in this
Mhm.
episode. And it's
Mhm.
when he is, Jack, that is, reading a book, The Science and Dangers of Coal Extraction, in a chapter on safety and company liability, for the mine explosion. And it's a blink and you'll miss it kind of scene.
Mhm. It sure is.
But, he is starting to look into the mine disaster.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. And that scene, I totally agree with you. And that scene is so quick, but it's also so important because you can tell he's off duty when he's reading that book.
Mhm,
He's in his own
mhm.
shirt. He's not in his
Yep.
mountain uniform. So that really stood out to me of, oh, he's looking into this on his
Mhm.
own when he's not, quote, on duty.
Yep. So, community chatter. So, this is, all community related scenes. Elizabeth teaching the lesson on gravity and Jack watching. This is one of my favorite scenes in the entire show.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, just
Yes.
his face
Mhm.
is priceless.
It's priceless. And when Elizabeth kind of notices that Jack is looking at her kind of in almost this like, I don't know, like disapproving way, like, come on, like, what are you doing? And
She pushes everything off the
yes.
desk. Or
And
not.
it's almost a moment of, okay, I'll show you, Mountie, what I can do, what I'm willing to do.
I
And then when
just,
he just looks and just shakes his head at her, it's
yep,
so good.
yes. And then that's when she moves all the stuff. She
Mhm.
pushes it off to the side and she stands on her desk, and his facial expression in that moment, like, it flips
Mhm.
like in a hot second.
Mhm. It sure does. I mean, 2 episodes in, and she just keeps him on his toes. It's great.
Hmm. I feel like some may agree with me. I think I've seen some people say this, that this possibly could be one of the moments where Jack's interest in her really started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get a lot of long glances from him looking at her. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Great scene. Yes.
So
And
good.
and then we get Elizabeth with her students at school again. And this is like right after all the boxes have been delivered with the stuff that her dad sent her. And I love when all the students are looking through the boxes. Some of them are picking up the dresses.
Hmm.
And I think it's Deborah, played by Paris Abbott. She picks up one of Elizabeth's pairs of shoes, and it kind of makes me chuckle when she says something along the lines of, "Where did all these shoes come from, Miss Thatcher?"
Hmm. It's so cute, isn't it? She's just so in awe of Elizabeth's things that she's finding and
Yep.
just how pretty they are and brand new because she
Yeah.
probably has never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we see, I think it's Rachel get all emotional. She doesn't want to leave Coal Valley. So this is the scene when Elizabeth writes on the chalkboard, Coal Valley is my home because, and we'll talk more in depth about this scene when we get to Coal Valley highlights in just a second, because that moment I think was one of the best in the episode and just possibly one of the best in the entire show.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Then the next school scene we see is, I think it's the next day, when all of Elizabeth's students find her asleep at the
Mhm.
table with the note on her head. I love how they're all just kind of standing around.
Me too. They're like, what should we do?
Yes,
School's starting.
yes. What's our first lesson of the day, Miss Thatcher?
Yes.
She's like, math. And then she's like, wait, no, that's not our first lesson of the day. We are going to do something else,
Hmm.
which is research for the evictions and a word search of home or house or property.
Hmm.
And James saying, seems kind of boring. Gabe, cut down. If it keeps us off math, who cares?
Hmm.
Yes, James. Nobody cares about math right now.
Yes. I love that you just mentioned that because I had that down. Actually, is my favorite quote of this episode. Nobody cares about math right
About
now
math right now.
because I am not a math girl. I was never a math girl when I was in school. So I immediately
No,
thought, oh,
nope,
thank you, Elizabeth.
nope.
I would love so much if one of my teachers had said that.
Math was not my strong suit either.
No, me either. That was so good.
This was a good scene too, and it is Abigail and Kat trying to encourage the rest of the widows to not give up, and then Mr. Anvil suggesting that they all go home and enjoy their time before they have to move out. Florence in this scene.
Hmm. Oh,
And,
I love Florence in these early
yeah,
episodes.
after I think Florence and some of the other widows walk away, you know, Herbert, that's Mr. Anvil's first name, he says, please just go home. Enjoy the time you have in those homes before you have to move out. But some of them don't listen to him. They just keep on chugging along,
Keep it
trying to clear the
on.
shaft.
Hmm. Which was
Yeah.
very, I think, empathetic and kind of him to say, to give them that
Yeah.
opportunity to enjoy their homes as long as they can.
Yes.
But these
Yeah.
women are determined. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to keep working
Yeah.
as long as they can.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then another community scene, Elizabeth and all the women going to help Abigail and the widows in the mine while the kids make all the lunches. That was a great scene.
Mhm.
And we might talk a little bit about that scene too in a minute. I think the act of kindness for this episode, or an example of an act of kindness, would be Miriam and Cynthia bringing food to the Montgomerys for dinner.
Mm. Oh, I think so too.
Yeah,
So sweet.
yes, that was a good moment in the episode.
Hmm.
Coal Valley highlights, we highlight the best scenes, best performance, and quote of the episode. What were three of the best scenes for you? I think I have more than three, maybe, but
It's okay. I
yeah,
think I do too. Ooh, top three. Let's see. It's hard. I think I have more than three. I think I have four.
we
Uh,
might have some of the same.
I think we
So,
do. Yes. My first favorite scene is one that we both love. Why Coal Valley is my home with Cassandra, Gabe, and Rachel, each going up in front of the class and saying why. Another top one would be when Elizabeth is on her way to join the women in the mines, and Jack is there. Those two mothers are there trying to
yep,
stop her. The
yep.
third one, oh, I just lost it. Well, I'll go to this one. It's at the very end, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but I love that last scene with Jack and Elizabeth walking outside because it's just so
Hmm.
beautiful.
Yes.
So good. Well, those are my top three. I had a
Hmm.
fourth. Maybe I'll remember it in a second. What
Yes.
about you?
Those are actually some of mine too, so we can go a little bit in depth now. I love seeing when they're reading their essays. Cassandra, I don't have her exact line written down, but she's saying how her first memory of Coal Valley was when they arrived, I think, and her father basically jumped off the stagecoach, kissed the ground, and thanked the good Lord for a second chance.
Mhm.
And Gabe is talking about how he had his first kiss with the girl in the class and how he's gonna marry her someday.
Yes.
And question, who do you think he was referring to? Rachel or Cassandra? Because they both had some facial expressions that
Mhm. They did. My first reaction was Rachel because she kind of gives that little look right after he
hmm.
says it, like she's also keeping a secret.
Yep, that was my thought too. Like,
Yeah.
he's keeping
Mm.
a secret.
Oh, yes.
He's being polite. And I think Gabe said something along the lines of, I'm not someone who kisses and tells because I'm
Oh.
too much of a gent.
He is such a little gentleman, such a romantic.
And then while I did love Cassandra and Gabe's essay, I think Rachel's is my favorite. And a big reason why is because of, I guess, the symbolism of
Mm.
her essay, what she's saying. She has a piece of coal in her hand from her father, and her father, called the piece of coal a pearl of great price. And I love the symbolism in that. And Rachel is basically saying that, that little piece of coal is a treasure, just like Coal Valley is a treasure for all who live there. And all treasures worth digging for always come at a price.
Mm.
Great line.
It's so good. It's such a great line. I completely agree. And
Yeah.
I too love the coal being from her father and that he told her to think of it as a diamond. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yes. All the women in the mine with the voiceover of Elizabeth's journal entry. And I did write down part of that journal entry when she's saying one sometimes has to go against his or her nature to dig deep into the dark trenches of life. One has to be willing to lose everything in order to gain what God has shaped them for, because there's a cost to the things that matter most in life, and it's in that sacrifice that we find our true treasure.
Mm. Oh, it's so good. That's such a great quote.
There were a couple of great quotes in this episode.
Hmm. There sure were.
And Jack and Elizabeth's first walk,
Hmm.
through the wooded area.
Hmm.
They're talking about the note that he left her.
Hmm.
He's asking her, am I in the journal?
Hmm.
And the scene ends when they're talking about his dream posting in Cape Fullerton and, how he was transferred to Hope Valley.
Hmm.
And that look between them right before
Oh.
the episode fades out.
Hmm. It's so good. And it's just so beautiful with, like you said, the
Mhm.
woods and the foliage. And it's just a
Mhm.
gorgeous scene.
Yes. And if I'm correct, now I know we're Team Nathan here, skipping far, far ahead, but I think that area where they were walking is the same walkway where Lucas proposed to Elizabeth without all the trees.
Ah, okay. I'm glad you mentioned that because I had been thinking if they still use that location anymore.
I think it's the same area because it looks the same. Even with all
It
the
kind
trees, it looks the same.
Yeah, it kind of does. You could be right. I wouldn't be surprised.
No?
Yeah.
Hmm. I know some may disagree with me. Unpopular opinion for season 9. And I think I already mentioned it when I reviewed season 9. But that was a very sweet proposal. I'm not
Mm.
gonna lie.
Hmm. It was, and I liked how
Yeah,
Lucas made little Jack a part of it, and it was the three
yeah,
of them, and it
yeah,
was just simple and just
yes,
outside. It was beautiful.
yes. But we're not talking about Lucas right now. We're talking about Jack and Elizabeth.
Yes, yes.
And going to another scene with Jack and Elizabeth, you mentioned it, the one when he's trying to stop her or not stop her from going into the mine.
Mhm.
He's being very protective in this moment, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yes.
And I love how he stands up for her to Cynthia and Dottie. Those two
Mhm.
women, they're like, well, you shouldn't be going in the mine, etc., etc. And I don't have the full line of what Jack said, but I was clapping when
Mhm.
Jack said, now, by the grace of God, go all of you.
Mhm. Oh, it's so good because
Like,
especially yes, Jack. And I completely agree because Dottie she was being really firm and pretty intimidating when she said, you need to go back and do your job.
God.
And if I were Elizabeth, I think I would feel just defeated and I would say something like, oh, okay, I was just trying to help. But I also love how Jack just immediately comes to her defense.
Defense.
And I had that as a highlight too of this is
Hmm.
kind of the first time that we see him really be protective of her, like you
Yeah.
said, and stand up for her. And it was
Yep.
just it was such a great moment.
Hmm. Agreed.
Mhm.
Yes. So, some honorable mention scenes in this
Mhm.
episode.
Mhm.
Brief moments that I
Yeah.
can't go by in this episode without mentioning
Mhm.
Jack helping Elizabeth with the boxes of school supplies. She's trying to carry them in herself, and Jack walks up behind her. His first may I is in this episode.
Mhm.
May
Yes.
I?
Such a gent.
Yes. And then Elizabeth's first journal entry in this episode. I think it was after Abigail had come home from the mine and she was still trying to figure out how she can help the widows.
Mhm.
And she says, I tried to make stew tonight and just ended up making a stew of it. And the biscuits, but my problems are nothing compared with these families. They've paid such a heavy price to make Coal Valley their home. And now these brave mothers going into that dark place to fight for their children while a Mountie sits on his horse doing nothing. And then she slams her journal shut. And then she says something about, I can think of something.
Hmm. Yes, it's such a good scene. And I'm so glad that you mentioned it because another scene for me is that scene right before where Elizabeth is in the row house and she sees Jack
She's
right out
Jack.
that little window. And she goes out and you're just everywhere, aren't you? And of course, there's that banter, that push and pull, and he's kind of
Mhm.
giving her a hard time. And she
Mhm.
comes back with, "Oh, you think I'm weak?" And he says something like, "Well,
Yeah.
you needed my help bringing those boxes in."
Hmm.
And oh, it's just such a good scene. And then, yes, she, of course,
Hmm.
mentions some of that in this
Hmm.
journal entry.
Yeah. So who do you think had the best performance in this episode?
Oh, best performance. Mm. I think Elizabeth really shined in this episode.
Hmm.
I really think she
Yeah.
did. Oh, gosh, this was such a just community-based
Hmm.
episode. There were so
Yeah.
many good ones, but I think her performance really stands out to me.
Yes. I agree that Aaron had the best performance in this episode, even though, they all did a fantastic job. And Elizabeth going into the mine with all the women following suit, that is what Coal Valley, at this time, Coal Valley, is all
Mhm.
about.
Yes. Another just quick scene I want
Mhm.
to mention about Elizabeth. I also love that scene where it's after hours and the saloon is closed, but she goes
Mhm.
in and I forget his name already, but the saloon owner
Tom
immediately
Travoy.
says, "Yes, thank you." He says, "We're closed, Miss Thatcher." And that's another moment where it would have been really easy for her to just turn around and go back home. But no, she says, "I'm not here to drink." And she just goes in and then she continues to stay.
Yep. Hmm.
And he's even pouring her more coffee.
Yep.
And that was another moment for me where we also see her after
Hmm.
hours
Yeah.
trying to research and think of a way to help. That also really stood out to me.
Yes.
And that's how she falls asleep. But I also really love
Yep.
that scene.
Yes. So for me, I think the best quote of the episode was from Elizabeth after Rachel reads her essay, and she says, "We mustn't lose hope. I believe there's a reason for every fear we face and every hardship we suffer. That's to make us all stronger people."
I love that quote. I thought of that one too. It's so good.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yes. So besides that one, do you have one that you
Yes,
wanted to share?
mine was nobody cares about math right now.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes. Yes.
Those two, though, are my top. They
Yeah.
really are. Hmm.
Yes. Agreed. So going to Faith and Frontier, what were some spiritual or moral messages of this episode for you?
For me, it was facing your fears, but having that faith that God is always with us, protecting us. Unfortunately, bad things still do happen, obviously, but
Mhm.
not letting fear stop you. We see that with so many characters in this episode of they
Yeah.
push through the fear. They
Yeah.
know the cost, they know the risks, but
Yeah.
they do it anyway.
Hmm. Agreed. So some themes in this episode for me, courage and standing up for what's right. So an example of this would be, even in the face of uncertainty, when the mining company threatens to evict them, the widows of Coal Valley don't surrender to fear or grief. They
Mhm.
choose to act with courage and stand together to fight for their homes by working in the mine, no matter if the odds are against them. And two Bible verses for me that match this theme: Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And then Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. So both great verses. Do you have any that match that theme?
I love those verses.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both so good. I don't have a specific one that comes to mind,
Yeah.
but I do know throughout the Bible, throughout the Word of God, there are so many verses that talk about do not be afraid, do not fear, do not be anxious.
Yeah.
Because obviously our Creator knows we're going to face fears in life. And so it's really comforting to know that His words can comfort us in these times.
Yes. And I love how the widows and Elizabeth too really follow that verse from Joshua by going into the mine, even though it's dangerous.
Yes, and they're all in it together, supporting one another. It's not just one or a few of them. It's we're all doing this.
Yes. So another theme, faith and compassion in action. An example of this would be how Elizabeth, she begins to see the townspeople not just as students and neighbors, but as people worth fighting for. She doesn't just sit by helplessly. She searches law books, challenges authority, and works tirelessly to find a way to help the widows. And when that fails, thanks to Gowan, she follows Jack's insight to truly listen and sacrifice her own comfort and life for that of her students and their families by going into the mine. And a verse that fits this theme, James chapter 2, verse 17, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead.
This is such a good reminder. It's so true.
Faith in action. And then community and solidarity. So an example of this, Abigail, and eventually all the women, not just the widows, and of course, Elizabeth, joining forces, showing that strength comes from community. Spiritually, this echoes the idea that people are stronger together and are called to bear one another's burdens. So Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. That's another great verse.
It's so good. And it's totally applicable to this episode because we see the mothers, the community. We see so many characters carrying each other's burdens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth too.
Yes.
She is really there for all of them.
Yes. She completely is when she could choose not to be. That's so true.
Yes. And then the only other theme I have in this episode is sacrifice for the good of others. So, of course, an example of this would be, I think I just stated it for the previous theme, but the widows and Elizabeth, the widows, Elizabeth, and all the other women risking their health and safety by going into the mine so that the widows' children can have a home. And I think we mentioned this verse in our themes for episode 1, but again, John chapter 15, verse 13, greater love has no one than this, than to lay down his life for his friends.
Oh, another great one.
And the message in this episode for me, hold on to hope, act with love, and face injustice with courage and faith. And even in times of loss or uncertainty, doing the right thing together can bring healing and strength.
Oh, I love that. That's so good.
I love it too. Yes.
So true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the next segment, how do you think these themes and the theme of what I guess Rachel was saying in her essay about, treasures and the pearl of great price apply to today?
I think that when you choose to push through the storms and challenges of
Hmm.
life, like we were talking about earlier, when you choose to do the hard thing and face your
Hmm.
fear, go through that valley, it's in those moments where that perseverance really gets you to the other side.
Yeah.
It very well gets you to that green pasture. It
Yes.
gets you to a better place, whether that's
Hmm.
finding peace, whether that's conquering a fear,
Hmm.
getting through a storm or a challenge, helping you get
Hmm.
to the other side.
Hmm.
Because sometimes I think if we let ourselves stop because of a hard thing or a challenge, we'll never experience what's going to come after that. We're just always going to be stuck. And
Hmm.
it's choosing to go beyond and being willing to have that faith and make that choice of, look, I'm going to go through this and I know it's going to be really scary or really hard, but I'm not just going to sit here and do nothing.
Yes. And we were talking about that in our review of the pilot movie as
Mhm.
well. I think Rachel's essay pretty much sums it up. All treasures worth digging for always come at a price.
Mhm. Yep. So true. So true. If you're willing to do that dig,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
you might very well find a diamond on the other side.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So going to our new segment, so to
Mhm.
speak. Now, this won't be a segment we include every episode because it's kind of difficult when it's the same year in a season. But Party History Corner, where we will occasionally share historical facts or a tidbit relevant to the time period or setting of, the episode or the season. So some historical facts, for this time period of the show. Evictions and displacement were real concerns in communities back then, especially for the vulnerable populations like widows who lost their primary income along with their husbands, women entering the workforce or taking on unconventional roles. Maybe not always going into a mine because I think in some areas, I think I read specifically one was Alberta. Like in Alberta, in this time period, women were not allowed to go into the mines. Harsh realities of frontier life. Mining, of course,
Mhm.
was a real thing in those days, and I think still is to this day a thing. Like, I think there are still mines across the country and
Mhm.
probably the world too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Still a dangerous occupation, even to this day, with risks of explosions, collapses, and diseases like black lung disease. And in history, there was a real mine disaster on December 9th, 1910. I apologize if I mispronounce this, but the Bellevue mine disaster is what I'm referring to. And it happened in Alberta
Mhm.
on the date that I just mentioned, where 31 men, I think it was 30 miners and one rescuer, died.
Mhm.
It's a stark example of the dangers faced by miners in this area. And I read on one of the websites, I think it was the one for the Bellevue mine, had it been during a full shift, so it was a partial shift when this happened, up to 200 men would have been in the mine, which could have surpassed the Hillcrest mine disaster 4 years later in 1914 for loss of life. Mm.
Mhm. Oh, that's so sad. I didn't know
Yeah.
about those two.
Mm-mm. No, I had
No.
no idea. But
Yeah.
if you want to read a little bit more on the history of the Bellevue mine, I will link that website where I got this information in the description of this episode.
Oh, I'll definitely have to read about that.
And I think the website even lists all the miners that were lost.
Oh, wow. Aw.
Of course, it's devastating that all those men were lost, but it is great that the website lists them all, to honor them in a way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think so too. They all
Yeah.
should be mentioned. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not an easy life
No.
or job.
No.
Mm-mm.
Not at all. But I have a lot of respect for people in that profession because I could not do that.
No, me either. Just not knowing what could
Mhm.
happen on a day-to-day basis. Yes.
We don't have any listener comments about this episode specifically, I don't believe. We do have some, I think, about just season 1 as a whole, but we will get to those later.
Mhm.
And the last segment for this episode, of course, Hearties trivia. So our trivia question for episode 1 was, who were the 2 other fan favorite actors that also auditioned for the role of Jack Thornton along with Daniel Lissing? The answer to that question, Andrew Walker and Jesse Hutch.
Yay!
Both great actors.
Mm-hmm.
I think those 2 actors are fan favorites.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they sure are.
Mm-hmm. And Jesse is now on When Hope Calls, of course, which is
He sure is. I love Jesse Hutch. He's so good. He's a favorite.
Yes. I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that either.
That.
I didn't know that either. Can you imagine?
I think I sent you that clip from Edify Films.
Yeah, you did.
And I was like,
before. Mm-hmm. I know. Before you sent me that, I had never heard that. I had no idea. Yeah, so that was some great research you did.
Oh, it just came on my Instagram feed. When I saw that, I sent it to you and I was like, Jesse auditioned for Jack?
Yeah.
What?
I had no idea either. That is so cool. I had no idea. I mean, good for him for auditioning though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Imagine if Andrew Walker or Jesse Hutch had been Jack Thornton.
Man, it would have been great. But it's just, obviously it's so hard to picture anyone else but Dan playing Jack. But of course, Andrew and Jesse, I believe, still would have done a great job.
Yeah. Love both Andrew and Jesse. And of course, love Dan too. But had we gotten Andrew or Jesse as Jack Thornton, we may never have had Nathan.
Exactly. And we've talked about that before. Because I think for both actors,
they probably would have stayed.
I think they would have stayed because, I mean, obviously, Andrew, we love Andrew. He's a favorite. The work that he's continuing to do on Hallmark, I think he would have stayed. I think Jesse would have stayed. We understand it's okay that Dan left. We support him. We still love him.
Yes.
But I agree. I think if it were Andrew or Jesse, they would have stayed.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're exactly right. Maybe we wouldn't have gotten the longevity as many seasons we have with the show. And we can't imagine it without Nathan. No. We love Nathan so much.
Yes. And our trivia question for this week, what year was the Old Farmer's Almanac that Elizabeth read when she was trying to figure out a way to help the widows? Leave your answer down in the comments of this video. And we will reveal it in our review of episode 3. All right, Hearties. Well, I think that concludes our review of When Calls the Heart, Season 1, Episode 2. If you enjoyed this episode and are watching on YouTube, you can like this video and share your thoughts about it in the comments. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure to rate and review, as your feedback is always greatly appreciated. If you want to stay up to date on all of our reviews for When Calls the Heart. You can subscribe to this channel on YouTube and follow along on Spotify. And make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when those new episodes come. You can also find the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Swing My Heart Podcast and Twitter at Swing My Heart Pod. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you very soon for our review of episode 3. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye.